planet was dead quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the kind that warned of something waiting just beneath the surface. The kind of silence that echoed louder than screams. LV-871. An uncharted rock orbiting a dying star, hadn't been on anyone's radar until the U.S.C. Kestrel picked up a signal short, repetitive, and organic in nature. Not human, not synthetic. Alive. Captain Maravas stood on the deck of the drop ship, arms crossed, staring at the arid landscape through the thick view panels. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Reed Tanner, stood beside her, scanning his datapad for anomalies. The terrain was all cracked soil and ash-colored rock, like a wound that never healed. Wind howled outside, carrying dust and whispers with it. "No sign of life?" she asked without turning. "Nothing above the surface," Tanner replied. "But we're getting heat signatures about 30 meters underground. Sporadic. Almost like movement." Mara finished for him. "Yeah, I feel it too." The Kestrel's crew numbered 10, not counting the ship AI. They were explorers, not soldiers, but every single one had seen combat. You didn't sign up for deep space runs unless you had a pass to escape or a death wish. Sometimes both. The signal had led them to a small outpost buried in the rocks. Half collapsed, covered in dust, but still pulsing with low power. Something kept it alive. The walls were scrawled with words, scratch marks, and other things. Strange symbols. Organic patterns that seemed to grow over the metal. Dr. Harlan Givens, the team's biologist, was the first to point it out. "These aren't random," he murmured, running a gloved hand over the black, sinewy growth on the walls. "They're systematic, like a language." "Don't get too close," Mara warned, but it was already too late. Something stirred beneath their feet. A low rumble. The lights flickered, and a moan echoed through the tunnels. Long, drawn out, inhuman. It made their skin crawl. Then came the scream. Private Jeannie Lau had been watching the corridor, rifle up, motion tracker humming. It blipped once, then again. Then it exploded into a series of chirps. Before she could react, a shape emerged from the shadows. Long-limbed, glossy black, glistening like oil. Its mouth opened, revealing another set of jaws within. It struck. They found her body, or what was left of it, against the far wall. A hole in her chest. No blood, just a gaping cavity. The crew retreated to the upper level, but the damage was done. Fear had sunk in. Tanner sealed the hatch behind them, his hands shaking. Givens kept muttering about patterns, about communication. And Mara knew deep in her gut. They were already being hunted. One by one, the crew started disappearing. Rains and Vico vanished during a sweep of the sublevels. Martin, the engineer, was dragged into a vent, screaming as blood sprayed across the corridor. The motion trackers were useless. The creatures didn't move like anything they'd encountered. Fast, precise like shadows with teeth. And then they found the nest. It was deep underground, beneath layers of rock and metal. The path there was carved, not built. Organic, breathing almost. The air was thick, hot, and filled with a scent that turned their stomachs, like rotting meat and engine grease. The walls pulsed. The floor was slick. They saw the eggs first. Dozens of them, then hundreds. Each one sat in a fleshy pod, undulating slowly. Some were open, some hissed, and around them, crawling like nightmares in the dark, were the drones. Xenomorphs, tall, lethal, elegant in their monstrosity. Mara's breath caught when she saw the queen. She was massive, twice the size of the others, her body fused with a biomechanical throne that pulsed with life. Tubes connected her to the walls. Her head was crowned with a crest like a dark crown. She watched them with empty eyes, but there was intelligence there. Cruelty. Purpose. The breeding grounds weren't just for laying eggs. They were for growing an army. Dr. Givens, transfixed, stepped forward. She's communicating. I can feel it. Not with words. With sensation. Urgency. Hunger. She's playing with you, Mara snapped. Get back. But he was already too close. The Queen shrieked, and a drone leapt forward, slicing through Givens with its tail. The rest of the crew opened fire, their pulse rifles lighting up the nest with sound and fury. But it wasn't enough. Tanner dragged Mara back as she screamed orders. We need to destroy the nest. We can't let this leave the planet. They fell back to the outpost, 2 crew members down. Now only 5 remained. Reed, Mara, Torres, Kincaid, and Samuels, the quiet pilot who'd stayed on the ship until now. He'd armed the nuclear failsafe on the drop ship the moment they radioed the first death. Standard protocol. But nothing about this was standard. They made a plan. One last sweep to gather survivors, if any, and then retreat to the surface and detonate the failsafe. Total sterilization. It was the only way. The final descent into the nest was a massacre. Torres was the first to go, pulled into a cocoon and impregnated by a facehugger before she could scream. Kincaid went down fighting, setting fire to the eggs with a flamethrower, only to be torn in half by 2 drones. Mara and Reed reached the Queen again. She didn't flinch under fire. Her skin was too thick, her rage too potent. Reed tossed the last incendiary grenade into her egg sac. The explosion was deafening. The Queen shrieked, slamming her claws into the walls. The entire cavern began to collapse. They ran, sprinting through twitching corridors, past burning eggs and writhing bodies. Samuels had already fired up the engines, the ship rattling as it prepared to lift off. Reed didn't make it. A xenomorph dropped from the ceiling, pinning him before Mara could react. She turned back, saw the look in his eyes, and knew there was no saving him. He screamed for her to go. She obeyed. The ship took off just as the blast consumed the outpost, a mushroom of fire erupting from the earth below. The Queen's nest was destroyed, but Mara didn't feel victorious. She sat in silence as Samuels piloted them away, stars spinning in the viewport. The silence had returned, that same terrible quiet. Samuels glanced at her. You think we got them all? Mara didn't answer right away. Her eyes were fixed on a small scratch on her glove. A cut, barely noticeable, but deep. And then, as the ship hummed into warp speed, she felt something shift inside her chest. Something move. She closed her eyes. The breeding grounds were gone. But the legacy had already begun.